We always cut down the poor people's budgets, and then we wonder why people literally struggle to survive in this country. They want an uneducated electorate. Exactly. They do. They do want an uneducated electorate, because the more uneducated you are, the more likely you are to vote Republican. I hate to say it. It's true. That's what the stats say. It's not just me. It's literally what the stats say. GOP advances bill that could remove 220,000 teachers from classrooms. This should be breaking news. For some reason, it's not. For some reason, outlets like Common Dreams are the ones covering it. I don't understand why, but this should be breaking news. If left to their own devices, Republicans would gleefully take public education to the graveyard. House Democrats warned that hundreds and thousands of teachers could lose their jobs if legislation advanced Friday by Republican-controlled Appropriations Subcommittee becomes law. So they're trying to push legislation that's going to effectively cut a lot of the education funding. But it's not just for education, it's for a lot of different spectrums, like when it comes to social safety net programs and just like general things like education or Center for Disease Control and things like that. You know what I mean? The panel's draft Labor, Health, and Human Services, Education, and Related Agencies funding bill for the coming fiscal year calls for nearly $64 billion in total cuts, a proposal that Democrats said decimates support for children in K-12 elementary schools and early education, abandons college students and low-income workers trying to improve their lives through higher education or job training. Do you understand how bad it is going to be if this actually passes? Which I hope it doesn't, because we still have a Senate majority, but it's not looking good. The GOP legislation would slash Title I grants to local educational agencies that serve children from low-income families by nearly $15 billion compared to fiscal year 2023 levels. Appropriations Committee Democrats said the massive cut could force a nationwide reduction of 220,000 teachers from classrooms serving low-income students amid teacher shortage. Do you know what this is going to do? This is going to push us further and further and further closer to privatizing K-12 education. And if we privatize K-12 education, not only can we not control what the students are learning, so if, let's say, the private school has a Catholic board and they want the children to learn Catholic BS, that's what they're gonna do, right? There is no curriculum or decorum when it comes to private schools. They're going to do what they want to do, right? And not having access to public schools is going to be such a blow towards families who literally cannot afford private education, because private education is expensive as hell too. It is expensive. We are seeing what happened in New Orleans after Katrina. New Orleans became a city where it became all charter school. All schools in New Orleans are charter. Do you want to know how low New Orleans ranks in education for K-12? Do you want to know how low Louisiana ranks in total? Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, they constantly fight for last. Okay? They constantly fight for last in quite literally everything. The legislation would also completely eliminate funding for a number of education department programs, including federal work study, federal supplemental education opportunity grants, promised neighborhoods, and child care access means in parents in school, which is wild. Additionally, the bill would inflict major cuts to labor, health, and medical research programs and agencies, slashing the Occupational Safety and Health Administration by $95 million, Job Corps by $1.8 billion, the National Institutes of Health by $2.8 billion, and the CDC by $1.6 billion. The bill would zero out funding for the CDC's firearm injury and mortality prevention research. Are we surprised that they're trying to gut the CDC's research around firearm injury? No, we're not. There have been at least 377 mass shootings across the U.S. this year. How are we going to track mass shootings if they gut the CDC's firearm and injury and mortality prevention research? How are we going to do that? I mean, we can have outside institutions do it, but it's not going to be as accurate. They have all the records. They're the ones that literally follow that kind of stuff. The American Federations of teachers, AFT, the second largest teacher union in the U.S., expressed outrage over the GOP funding measures, deep cuts to education, healthcare, and worker programs. The proposed funding cuts for labor, health, education, and related agencies are part of the GOP's far-reaching assault on federal programs as members of Congress race to approve a dozen appropriation bills by September 30, the end of the current fiscal year, to avert a government shutdown. Here we go again. Here we go again with the government shutdown. The debt ceiling agreement reached in late May by the Biden's White House and Republican leaders set caps on non-military discretionary outlays, but GOP appropriators are working to cut spending as much as possible, targeting clean water funds, IRS enforcement, public housing, and other critical programs. You're telling me you want me to trust the police to give me accurate information about mass shootings and firearm shootings? I would rather not. Okay? If we end up going down this route, we're going to end up privatizing K through 12 education for children. And that is going to be catastrophic towards access to education, which is a literal fundamental human right. I mean, if you're not going to give us healthcare, if you're going to allow millions of people to walk around the country without healthcare, the least you can do is at least continue to fund education so that people can get the elementary education that they need in order to survive. Barely. And you're trying to get that too. And who is this going to impact the most? It's going to be the children of color, the low-income families, the families that are in zip codes that are already disproportionately disadvantaged. It's almost as if this country just wants people to get more poor, right? Because it's why don't we ever have the conversation on cutting down the Pentagon's budget, cutting down the military budget, cutting down other budgets? No, we always cut down the poor people's budgets, and then we wonder why people literally struggle to survive in this country. They want an uneducated electorate. Exactly. They do. They do want an uneducated electorate, because the more uneducated you are, the more likely you are to vote Republican. I hate to say it. It's true. That's what the stats say. It's not just me. It's literally what the stats say. You don't understand. We need the budget of the next 10 countries combined to fight off the brown people desperately trying to destroy our nation. God, that was so based. We'll see what happens. We'll keep following it, but this is very worrisome and it's catastrophic, to be honest. We all need to worry about this. We'll see what happens, though.